The sun was a relentless overseer in the sky, casting its scrutiny upon the land of Matebeleland. Amidst the sprawling royal kraal, King Lobengula Khumalo received the news with sober attention. His penetrating eyes flickered not with surprise, but with the calculated foresight of a chess master anticipating his opponent's move. The British convoy, unaware and unguarded, snaked through the veldt like an unwitting prey. Ngwenya Nkube, to me, the man known as the Lion of Matebeleland, emerged from the shadows, his presence as solid and unyielding as the ancient rocks that lined the Ndebele heartland. "Great King, your will." Lobengula rose from his throne, his regal attire whispering tales of battles won and wisdom gained. "A British convoy, ripe for the taking, travels through our land," he began, his words measured like droplets of rain heralding a storm. "Their path takes them through the valley near the old riverbed, where the mapani trees stand as silent witnesses." "An ambush there would be fitting," Ngwenya replied, his scarred visage betraying no emotion, yet his eyes ignited with strategic fire. "The terrain is on our side. Indeed, our impis must be positioned here, beyond the crest of this hill, concealed by the brush. And here, flanking the narrowest part of the trail, ready to close in like the jaws of a trap. Surprise is our spear, swiftness our shield. The element of confusion will serve us well. My warriors are as silent as the night, and as deadly as the black mamba's bite. Your loyalty has always been the bedrock of my reign. Go forth and prepare. Let this day be etched in history as the moment when the might of the Ndebele shook the foundations of the British Empire." "By your command, my king," Ngwenya responded, his voice leaving no room for doubt. He turned, his figure casting a long shadow across the kraal, and strode out, his mind already orchestrating the movements of warriors and the dance of death that awaited the unsuspecting enemy. King Lobengula watched him go, knowing that the fate of many rested on the shoulders of the Lion of Matebeleland. He felt the weight of decisions yet to come, of treasures to be safeguarded, and the relentless march of history that would remember this day. But for now, the king's focus remained sharp, his thoughts aligned with the imminent battle, a decisive ambush that would echo through the annals of the Ndebele kingdom. Major Alan Wilson adjusted his pith helmet, a nonchalant gesture that belied the oppressive heat of the African bush. He and his patrol of 34 khaki-clad soldiers ambled through a seemingly endless expanse of thick underbrush and towering acacia trees. Their horses' hooves thudded softly against the sun-baked earth, kicking up small clouds of dust that hung lazily in the still air. "Steady pace, men," Wilson called out, his voice betraying none of the weariness that clung to his limbs like the cloying humidity. The men exchanged light-hearted banter, their rifles slung carelessly over shoulders as they recounted tales from home and past adventures on the continent. Laughter punctuated their conversations, a stark contrast to the silence that enshrouded the surrounding landscape, a silence that seemed to watch them with unseen eyes. Hidden in the dense foliage, Lobengula's warriors crouched low, their hearts pounding with a mix of adrenaline and fierce resolve. Amidst the shadowed greenery, their expressions were taut with anticipation, every muscle coiled for the signal to strike. The tension among them was palpable, a living thing that thrummed through the air like the distant roll of thunder before a storm. Suddenly the calm shattered. With a cacophony of guttural war cries and the rustling of leaves, Lobengula's impis erupted from their hiding places. The tranquility of the bush gave way to chaos as scores of Ndebele warriors, their bodies painted with the white and red ochre of war, leapt forward with an explosive ferocity that seemed to spring from the very earth itself. Wilson's horse reared in startled confusion, its neigh a sharp note above the din. The British soldiers, caught in the midst of disarray, scrambled to unsling their rifles, their relaxed demeanor vanishing as swiftly as mist before the morning sun. The abrupt onslaught had them spinning in their saddles, searching for the source of the thunderous noise that now surrounded them. "Form up! Defensive positions!" Yet even as he spoke, the realization dawned on him. It was an ambush. The serenity of the march had been nothing but the prelude to a nightmare. and now they were ensnared in the web of a cunning and unseen predator. A sea of fearsome Ndebele warriors closed in, their assegais gleaming in the dappled sunlight that filtered through the canopy, their shields a wall of impenetrable darkness that advanced with relentless purpose. The shock of it, of being utterly enveloped by this fierce tide, etched itself into the faces of Wilson's men, who now fought not just for victory, but for survival amidst the unforgiving embrace of the African wilds. Ngwenya Nkube, the lion of Matebeleland, stood firm as a monolith, the muscles in his arms taut as bowstrings as he gripped his spear. He watched with the stillness of a predator as the initial clash erupted into chaos. The air was rent by the cacophony of war cries that melded with the staccato rhythm of gunfire. The scent of gunpowder and sweat mingled with the earthy aroma of the bush, creating an acrid perfume that heralded the savagery of battle. The Ndebele warriors, their bodies painted with the symbols of their ancestors, descended upon the British soldiers like a deluge. They brandished spears and shields, some clutching captured firearms, their expressions set in masks of resolve. Assegais pierced the air, glinting momentarily before finding their marks. Shields clashed against bayonets, the sound a terrifying symphony that underscored the ferocity of the engagement. Each Ndebele fighter moved with deadly grace, a dance honed by generations of warfare, every step and thrust a testament to their heritage and prowess. Amidst the fray, Ngwenya's presence galvanized the warriors around him. His voice boomed over the bedlam, commands woven with authority and clarity. "Forward, sons of Matebeleland! Let the spirits of our fathers guide your hands." His words were not just orders. They were invocations, imbued with the power of tradition and the weight of their struggle. With calculated precision, Ngwenya led a contingent in a flanking maneuver, his knowledge of the terrain allowing them to exploit the undergrowth for cover. They emerged suddenly from the foliage, striking at the British flank with a ferocity that sent ripples of panic through the enemy ranks. His leopard skin cape billowed behind him like the mantle of a chieftain leading his people to destiny. His scarred face a visage of indomitable will, etched by the trials of countless battles. As he fought, his movements were both brutal and beautiful. Each swing of his spear carried the force of thunder, each step the certainty of the earth beneath his feet. He embodied the spirit of the Ndebele, the unyielding rock against which the tides of invasion would break. His warriors responded to his example, their discipline unshaken even in the heart of violence, their actions mirroring the strategic masterstroke of their Induna. Ngwenya's keen eye assessed the shifting tides of combat, anticipating the British soldiers' attempts to regroup. He barked out a series of commands, directing his impis to press the advantage. With relentless energy they heaved against the British lines, breaking the cohesion of their defense and sowing disarray. It was a masterclass in the art of war, each decision a thread in the tapestry of victory being woven on this blood-soaked canvas. In the midst of the melee, Ngwenya's lion heart beat with the rhythm of battle, his soul aflame with the courage that had earned him his name and the respect of all who followed him. This day, this moment, would be seared into the annals of history, not just as a clash of arms, but as a clash of wills where the spirit of a people fought for its very existence. High above the frenzied tableau of combat, King Lobengula stood like an ancient sentinel upon the hilltop. The thunderous din below, a cacophony of metal, gunpowder, and human ferocity, rose to meet him on the wind. In the shadow of a withering baobab tree, he surveyed the battlefield with piercing eyes that betrayed neither fear nor hesitation. His regal attire fluttered slightly, the only sign of movement in his otherwise statuesque form. "Look how they fight, like lions cornered in their den. Ukumkoba kuyakala," he whispered to the spirits of his forebears, invoking an ancient proverb. Victory begins here. Below, the British soldiers, though outnumbered, embodied discipline amidst chaos. Their rifles cracked in deadly unison, a harsh counterpoint to the rhythm of traditional weapons. They moved with drilled precision, each man covering his comrade, fighting back-to-back in tight formations designed for survival. Even as Ndebele warriors descended upon them like a storm unleashed, the British held firm, their faces set in grim lines of determination. Lobengula watched the desperate tenacity of the red-coated men, acknowledging their skill with a warrior's respect. Their superior firepower spat death into the ranks of his brave fighters, claiming souls with each pull of the trigger. "Yet they do not know the land as we do," Lobengula said, his words lost to the winds. "They do not fight for their home, their heritage. That is our strength. That is our edge." The king's hands rested gently on the hilt of his ceremonial spear, fingers tracing the intricate beadwork as if drawing strength from the very artistry of his people. He knew the cost of resistance, could see it in the blood staining the earth below, but he also saw the undying spirit of the Ndebele, a spirit that would endure long after the echoes of battle had faded. "Ngwenya, lead them to victory today so that our tomorrow may dawn." The sun bore down mercilessly upon the unforgiving landscape, casting long, ominous shadows that danced like spectres around Major John Wilson and his beleaguered men. Within the hastily formed circle of defense, each soldier stood shoulder to shoulder, their bayonets glinting with a fatalistic sheen against the encroaching horde of Ndebele warriors. "Steady, lads." The scar on his left cheek seemed to throb with each beat of his racing heart, a constant reminder of battles past and the price of empire. Around him, his men echoed the sentiment of indomitable spirit, their faces etched with the grim acceptance of the inevitable. As if moved by an unseen conductor, they began to sing in unison, the strains of "God Save the Queen" rising above the fray, a poignant anthem for those staring into the abyss. "Shoulder to shoulder," Wilson cried, fixing his gaze upon the approaching tide of warriors. His men, drawing strength from his unwavering posture, tightened the circle, their voices rising defiantly against the death that loomed over them. Ngwenya Nkube's silhouette cut through the dust and heat mirage, his battle-scarred face a mask of resolute determination. He signaled his impis forward with a commanding sweep of his arm, his leopard-skin cape billowing behind him like the wings of some avenging spirit. As the Ndebele warriors descended upon the British soldiers' ring, the air itself seemed to shudder with the impact of cultures clashing. The ground trembled beneath the weight of resistance as the spears and shields of the Ndebele met the rifles and bayonets of the British. Wilson's men fought with the discipline and valor ingrained in them by countless drills and skirmishes, their superior weaponry barking out in desperate salvos. Yet for each warrior felled, two more took their place, their chants melding with the fading song of the soldiers. With a strategic thrust, Ngwenya led his warriors deeper into the fray, his eyes never leaving the figure of Wilson, who now fought back-to-back with the remnants of his patrol. The major swung his sword with deadly precision, but each stroke was a note in a requiem for fallen comrades. There, amidst the swirling maelstrom of combat, the bravery and resolve of both sides were laid bare. Neither the soldier nor the warrior yielded, each fighting not just for land or king, but for the very essence of their being, their honor, their legacy. The tragic nature of the conflict hung heavy over the battlefield. For every drop of blood spilled, the soil absorbed the sorrow of lives lost and futures unfulfilled. It was a tapestry of heroism and heartbreak, woven by the hands of fate and the steel of conviction. As the final notes of "God Save the Queen" tapered into silence, overwhelmed by the relentless zeal of the Ndebele warriors, Major Wilson and his men stood as monuments to their cause, undaunted though outnumbered, their courage forever etched into the annals of time. King Lobengula Khumalo stood atop a hill overlooking the battlefield, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the setting sun. A gentle wind carried the acrid scent of gunpowder and the haunting echoes of the day's violence. His penetrating eyes, usually alight with a regal fire, now reflected the somber scene below. He descended slowly, each step measured and deliberate, his beaded regalia whispering against the tall grasses. The fallen lay scattered across the veld, a grim mosaic of Ndebele warriors and British soldiers alike. Lobengula's heart clenched at the sight. Each lifeless form represented a story cut short, a family left to mourn. As he moved among the bodies, his warriors parted before him with bowed heads, their earlier fervor replaced by a respectful silence. He paused occasionally to place a hand on the shoulder of a grieving warrior, or to murmur a traditional prayer over the departed, honoring their sacrifice. Lobengula's mind churned with the weight of leadership. This victory, though hard won, was a harbinger of greater storms to come. He knew the British would not be cowed by a single defeat. Their thirst for conquest was unslakable. They would return in greater numbers, their resolve hardened by the blood spilled on this field. They will come for us again, bringing their relentless tide to our shores. What would you have us do, my king? Lobengula turned to face the west, where the land held secrets only he and a trusted few knew. We must secure that which makes us who we are, he said, the gravity of his decision evident in his tone. Our heritage, our treasures, cannot fall into their hands. We shall hide them, bury them if we must, so that the spirit of our people remains untarnished. By your word it shall be done, Ngwenya affirmed, understanding the depth of the plan's implication. This was no mere tactical retreat. It was a preservation of identity, a safeguarding of the soul of a nation. As twilight encroached, casting long shadows across the land, King Lobengula raised his head to the darkening sky. Stars began to pierce the veil of dusk, each one a silent witness to his resolve. The coming days would demand more than just strength. They would require cunning, secrecy, and sacrifices beyond measure. In that moment, as the chapter closed on the battle-weary king, the stage was set for a tale of desperation and defiance. A tale where the Ndebele would risk everything to keep their legacy from being extinguished by the encroaching darkness of